Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Confident Parenting Podcast. My name is Julie, if we haven't met before. And today we're going to talk about my struggle with being a more present mom, parent, person, if I'm being honest. And I hope this can help you too. I hope you can reflect on this by the end of this episode and think about ways that you would like to be more present or where you have done really well in this area, where you need to improve. But I want to talk about today why we need to be present for our children, for ourselves, and how we can go about doing that in the practicalities of a chaotic and hectic modern lifestyle. Because I'm sure a lot of you watching this are in similar positions to me. You might have young children, kids that are growing up. You might be struggling and juggling career, your romantic relationship, your adult friendships, your health, all of the things. And it feels like you're on a never-ending hamster wheel. And I can't guarantee that I can take away the hamster wheel, but I'm hoping that I can help strengthen your response to the chaos of life. But before we get into that, if you have never seen me before, as I said, my name is Julie. I have 3 children, ages 10, 7, and 4. So that gives you an idea of where I am in my parenting journey. And I'm also an occupational therapist by training. I have a clinical doctorate in occupational therapy. And I'm really interested in how the mind works, how the body works, health, how I can support moms and dads in their parenting journeys to be the parents that they want to be, not parent out of fear, and really parent in an assertive and loving and kind way, help you develop values and a sort of roadmap for your family as much as you can control these things. I'm really loving the coaching clients that I have right now. I coach people one-on-one and also in small groups, and I find it incredibly rewarding. And I hope that together we can affect the future generation, because they are growing up in a very different world from how you and I grew up if we're in similar generations. And it's challenging as a parent to navigate things that we never had to deal with, like social media, which I'm going to talk about in this video, like the internet, just the peer pressure, all of the technology that comes with raising children nowadays. It's a lot for parents, especially when you don't have a blueprint yourself, because this was not your experience. We rely so much on how we were parented and how we were raised, and we can't always do that now. We're in uncharted territory. So if that is interesting to you, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Give this video a big thumbs up. Comment down below how old your kids are if you have children, or if you'd like to have kids, and what your struggles are when it comes to being present. And let's jump into the video. All right, so as I said, I have a 10-year-old, which means I've been a parent for a little over 10 years now, and you would think I would know what I was doing by now. But, the goalposts continue to move. They also change when you introduce another child to your family, when there's certain curveballs that life throws at you. Maybe you change your job, or you move, or something happens in your family, and you have to learn to adjust and to pivot. But throughout that, I have always been on a quest to be as present, be the best parent I could be in the given circumstances. And obviously, I'm far from perfect, and I have learned a lot over the years. My children have taught me a lot, whether they know that or not. And something that I've always struggled with is my attention and knowing where to put it and falling prey to the temptations of society. And I think especially for that mom, social media, being on your phone, having that little kick of dopamine, it is a lifeline when you are in the throes of parenting. It is such an easy way to help yourself feel a bit better. It's not that bad for you, is it? And it also makes you feel fakely connected to people in a lot of ways, but it steals so much from us. And I would say I was full-blown addicted to Instagram, YouTube, that kind of thing. Did it impact my life super negatively? Probably not on the outside, but inside I was definitely grappling with the kind of worst of it. The comparison problem, the fact that it's taking all of my time, where I'd walk around saying I have no time, but there are things that I could cut back to give myself more time. Just the mental unrest, so much. So the very first thing that I have been working on a lot lately to be more present is to cut back on my social media use. Now, I know for my personality, because I've tried and tested this, if I deny myself something like completely, I crave it more. I remember as a teenager, I'd be like, I shouldn't eat so much chocolate, or I should cut back on sugar or whatever. And it's similar to social media, right? Because we know that sugar is an addictive substance. It makes you, the more you have it, the more you want it, right? It makes you crave things. And so I remember as a teenager, I would be like, I'm not going to eat chocolate for a week. And I wouldn't even last a day because all I would do is fixate on the chocolate. So I knew that I couldn't just be like, I'm never going to go on Instagram ever again, because that's impractical. And there are some positives to kind of being in touch with people, but also, I learned things from Instagram. I moved to a new city. I learned where there are new coffee shops and restaurants. My friends and I and my sister and I send each other memes, and that brings joy into my life. So it's not like it's all bad. I just felt like I get obsessed with it, and I get into the habit pattern of just continuously checking my phone. I've tried deleting it from my phone or hiding it on my phone. And sometimes that works, but then for whatever reason, I feel like I need to put it back on my phone to see something that's hard to see without Instagram, if someone's sending you something. And then I get back into it and I just fall back straight into the trap. And that's the thing with addictive behaviors and habits. It's very easy to get back into it. It doesn't take long. So what I have found is that I didn't ban myself from Instagram and YouTube. Those are the apps that I am most drawn to. I basically deleted Instagram from my phone, so I still have my account, but I told myself that if I want to look at it, I could re-upload it, okay? So I'm not making like it a banned thing, but I could also look at it on my computer. And if you've ever looked at Instagram on desktop, some people don't know that this is even a thing. It does exist. It's just not as seamless because it's designed as an app. And there's certain things that you can't do on a desktop that you can do on an app. Like you can't vote in a poll, for example. I figured that out. I don't know if you can write in a sticker, if someone asks you, what do you think? Or, suggest something down below. You can't do that on the desktop, I don't believe. It's more clunky, which makes it less appealing, to be honest. And so what I was not doing in the past that I've done now that has really changed things for me is that I was giving up on the urge that it had on me way too early. So I would kind of delete Instagram for a week, and then something would happen and I would download it again, and then the timing was not long enough. And so now I think also when you decide to delete it, if you've got other things going on in your life, just like replacing habits, it also really helps. So right now I don't even have that much of a craving, an urge to go and look at Instagram on my computer. And I need to every now and again because people send me messages and I want to just keep up to date. And so I even forget to do that. And it's not as pleasant. It's not as an alluring of an experience as having it on my phone. And also not banning it completely. Like I have downloaded it onto my phone and then I will check something and then I delete it again. That has been very helpful to me. So this all is to say that this has really helped with my presence with my children, because when you are addicted to something, and I hate the word addiction, like in this sense, it sounds so dire, but I guess I need to own up to what it was. It was like taking away a lot of my attention with my children. You just are controlled by it all the time, right? By not having it on my phone is a lot less appealing. And I found myself wanting to check and wanting to do things, but there's nothing really there. But as time has gone by, I don't have this craving to go and re-upload Instagram or run to my computer and go and check it. And so it's honestly very freeing. It gives you so much more time in your day to do other things, which I want to talk about. So I think that's the number one thing. Like I should have saved this for the end of the video so you'd watch the whole video. I don't do things like play games like that. But honestly, if you can not be on social media apps as much on your phone, that'll be a life-changing thing. I first did Instagram, now I've done YouTube. So that means I can only really watch YouTube videos on my computer, which is just not as convenient. I can't scroll in my car and like that kind of thing. But I'm also not forbidding it. It's like we live in this world. There are things on there that I do find add meaning to my life and are not always going to be making me feel bad, which Instagram does have the tendency for me to feel like I'm not keeping up with how everybody else is living their lives. But I feel like it's just the net positive of not having it on my phone is just dramatic. So it helps me to be more present with my children because this is not my king anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm learning how to live again without these like very enticing apps. I feel like I'm spending more time talking to people on voice notes and messaging people. So I'm building more relationships, which has been really helpful. And this leads me back to when I am alone or without my children, or when I do have time, investing in myself a little bit in positive ways really helps me be more present with my kids. Something that I always tell my clients, and I've been telling them for such a long time, is when you are away from your children, so they're at school, they are in some kind of childcare, they're with your partner, you're not with them, you have time without them that you anticipate. Do things for you that are very difficult to do with children, or just frustrating to do with children. That could be taking a shower. A lot of us that have little kids, taking a shower by yourself is a big deal. Washing your hair uninterrupted, it's like, chef's kiss. But I try and kind of pour into my own cup, I guess, for lack of a better word, when my kids are not around, so that when they are with me, I'm excited to see them and I can really focus all on them. I try and work when they're not around. I try and work out when they're not around. I do voice noting with my friends a lot of the time, or maybe sometimes in the car when they're there, but I usually don't do it when they're around me because, well, if you've ever tried to do that with children around, they're going to ask you 5 million questions. You're going to have to pause and resend it and get distracted. And that's not the point. The point is you want to be present. But I think feeding into my adult relationships with my friends makes me a better mom, makes me feel like I have social outlets. I am not just a mom. Like, that is a big role that I play, and it's a very important part of my identity in this phase of life. But I also am a person, a woman that needs friends, and I use that time away from my kids and also away from social media to feed into my relationships so that I feel like I can give more to my kids. The other thing that I've also done with saving time with being off social media, but also it's more than just the time thing. It's like retraining your brain and the attention that social media destroys, is reading books, like reading novels. I don't really enjoy reading on an electronic device as much as I enjoy reading a real book. I do like listening to books, but that's more something I would do in the car, or if I'm doing a task at home that I don't really want to do. If I'm going to listen to a book, I need to be doing something with my hands. So if I was going to do a sewing project, or if I was going to clean something, I would listen to an audiobook or a podcast. But if I want to use reading as a way to relax and like wind down and stimulate a different part of my brain, I need to do that with a physical book. But I was finding that I really struggle to concentrate with books. And look, it could be age, it could be mom brain, but I think the phone is definitely not helping. I think my, attention has been negatively affected. And I feel like this is very evident when you're tired at night or you want to wind down. In the good old days, before technology, we would read books. Now we just scroll through our phone or watch TV because that's so much more passive. You don't need to try. It's tiring in a way to read a book, especially if you're not used to it. And I was finding like I couldn't concentrate on books for longer than say 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whereas my 10-year-old can read a book for hours. And he can be super enthralled and involved in the book to the point where if I call his name, he doesn't hear me. So if a 10-year-old has better attention than me, that is a problem. Like maybe I don't have the same amount of attention as he does, and I definitely don't have as much leisure time as he does, but I should be able to read a book for at least half the amount of time that he can in one sitting, if you know what I mean. So I think by replacing the habit of scrolling with reading books, and I've borrowed a whole bunch of books from the library. I absolutely love the library in this country, where I can order books online and I just wait for them to come. I go and pick them up. They get them from me. If they get them for me, I don't have to go find them in the library. I find libraries very intimidating because I don't know where to even look for a book. But if I have a book recommendation, I can put my name on the list on hold and the book will eventually come and they'll have it there physically for me and I just go pick it up and the library's like 4 minutes away or whatever. And it's the best thing ever. And it's really, really helped. And I think as I've now moved away from my phone, I can reinvest that time in reading a book and also improve my attention and my cognition at the same time, improve my vocabulary. And one of my values is learning and teaching my children the importance of reading, because that I've mentioned this before, but studies show that a really big part of how a child is going to perform academically comes down to their vocabulary. It's almost like as simple as that, but building a solid vocabulary takes years. And the best way, teachers will tell you, is through reading. And if I'm not walking the talk so much, if I'm not reading books and they're not seeing me read books, how can I expect them to read books if they don't want to? Because they're not seeing it modeled for them. So it'll make everybody's life a lot easier if we have bigger vocabularies. I think school will be easier for them, and academically they will do better with less effort. So I'm also trying to do that. I want to role model that, and I was, the subservient slave to my phone. And so, yeah. The other thing that I feel like helps with presence is not being as tired. So working on sleep hygiene, I really struggle with this. I can do a video on it if anyone is interested. Now that I'm in my 40s, I feel like I have to be super strict about this, because with hormonal changes, your sleep can really take a toll. And any perimenopausal, postmenopausal woman will tell you that they struggle to sleep. In fact, I heard this stat the other day that most women wake up at 3:47 a.m. when they've done sleep studies. That's when you typically wake up. And I think it has to do with your glucose dropping and your blood sugar and that kind of thing. But I think as you get older, I've definitely found I wake up and I'm anxious. And so sleeping is a big thing. So I'm working really hard on tightening up my sleep as much as possible. Like, you're not going to get it right every night. And I have children and a dog and, things happen. But as much as I can, I want to control that. And I think, we know that being on your phone for extended periods of time right before you go to bed is going to disrupt your sleep. There are other things as well, but also just having everybody else's problems in your face from social media, making it your problem and comparing your life to them, even if you're doing it unconsciously, that can't be good for your sleeping. So I want to be as rested as possible, because honestly, I typically don't wake up feeling very refreshed. That's a story for another day. But this also helps build presence with your children, because you're going to be more even-tempered. You're less likely to be snappy at them. So that's very important, working on your sleep. And if you want me to do a more dedicated video on sleep, I definitely can. I probably have done them in the past, but I can do an updated one as time goes on. Maybe some of you are in a similar life stage to me, that 35 to 45-year-old age gap, age range, and you might be dealing with similar things, or you're going to deal with similar things. And then the other thing that I feel like has helped me be more present is focusing on working out and being physically active. I think that's going to boost overall health. And I've been doing more yoga, more like meditation practice, I guess. Yoga kind of incorporates that, but it doesn't have to be yoga. It could be anything. I like yoga for the stretching and the flexibility and the balance. I feel like that's going to help me a lot as I age. But I think this concept of stillness, and I know that if I go to a class, like, I can't do anything else except the class. So that's important for me, because I might not find any other time throughout my whole day where I just focus on that. And I think that's very important. And it's also exercising that part of our brain that struggles to be still. And moving on from that, being more present in my daily life is also an action of stillness, of allowing myself time just to think, like not having things in my ears, not be occupied by a screen or even a book, just letting myself have thoughts come, being creative. If we never make the time for that sort of what we would call like negative space, for that emptiness, we can never think new things. We just are always stimulating our brains and our minds where there's no space to just be. And so I'm trying hard to not fill up my brain all the time, not be so scheduled all the time, so that I have more time to think. And then ergo, when I'm with family and children, and I can just be there in the moment and practice this, because I don't think I'm very good at that. It's not a strength of mine to just be zen, and I need to work on it, because I want to be a calm version for my children. So these are the things I'm trying to see in my notes if there's anything I've left out. But these are the things that have really moved the needle for me. I mean, social media, massive one. Let's hope I can keep it up and not fall back into this trap again. But I really like the rhythm that I'm in now. And it is about habits, and it is about sticking with something until it becomes you don't think about it, your daily practice. And I think it's that sticky bit in between where you're still like jonesing, you still kind of need a fix of whatever is occupying your mind that you don't want to control you anymore. That part is hard. That's when we give up and we kind of succumb to whatever the craving is, whether it's food or social media or online shopping or toxic relationships or drama. Like all of these things are super enticing and we kind of can fall into the trap. Any of these things, like when you're in the middle of it and it's hard, that's when we're weaker and we give up. And I want to urge you to just give it an extra day, give it another day, give it a week. See if you can push through for a little bit. See if you can, instead of pushing so much, maybe is the wrong word, but like see if you can replace that habit with something else that's also enjoyable. Maybe not as easy, like reading a book to me is not as easy as scrolling through my phone. I think most people would agree with that, but it's still enjoyable and lovely, and it still replaces that habit and bridges it over until you can be more in the groove. I always used to look at these people that seemed so disciplined and just didn't seem to have any vices and seem to like get a lot of stuff done. And like, if you go a layer deep and you look at their lives, they're not watching TV every day. They're not scrolling their phone. They're not on Instagram. They're not on TikTok, all of these things. But I'm like, how are you not on these things? How have you not fallen prey to all of these addictive, enticing behaviors? And it's because they have other things in their lives that matter more to them and that have become so ingrained in who they are that they are not, it's not that they are above being tempted, but they've structured their lives where the temptations are not forefront for them. And so they don't struggle with it like a lot of us do. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope this gives you inspiration. I want you to be more present with your family. I don't think you'll ever regret that time. And there is time to maybe be more on your phone. But with little kids, now is not the time. If you don't want them growing up in that environment where they permanently feel like they're second fiddle to your phone. And then we just perpetuate this generation of technology junkies or social media junkies. And I know it's going to be harder for our children. At least I have age on my side where Facebook was not invented until I was like in my 20s, so I didn't have this temptation. I didn't get a cell phone until I was 17 or 18 years old, so I went through my whole childhood without this. And I can't even imagine what my life would have been like had phones and iPads and social media been part of my everyday life. But that is the reality of our children. And I'm trying my darndest to have that not be the case for them and to put it off as long as possible, so that their brains can be a little bit more mature. But I don't know. Wish me luck on that. And I wish you all luck too, because it is not easy. But anyway, that's where we are right now. I hope you're doing well. Please consider subscribing if you found this video interesting. Share it with someone who might enjoy it as well and get value out of it. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.